Welcome to the Bleeding Hearts Club, where we alchemize pain into something beautiful together. I'm your co-host, Shrewd. I'm an astrologer who helps you use astrology as a self-reflective tool for healing and growth. And this is my co-host.
Hi, y'all. My name is Stevie. I use they and she pronouns. I'm a tarot reader, Reiki practitioner, death doula, and mental health professional. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time.
Yeah, we love to have you here. So today we are going to answer one of our audience questions. We are so thrilled y'all are writing into us. We are here to answer your questions on just about anything you have on your mind. It could be a self-reflective question. It could be why is the world falling apart question. It could be job related, romance related, whatever. We are thrilled to be able to support you. And, we always want to encourage that the questions that are shared and the topics we wind up talking about as a result of questions benefit not just you but also the community at large. We get a lot of feedback saying that people really appreciate the questions. So if you have one, if you're some muddling on something, go ahead and write in and feel free to include your birth information. That's your birth time, date, and city, state or country location. And we'll go ahead and give you a little bit of a mini tarot and astrology reading. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Oh, yeah, by the way, you can write that in, either DM us on TikTok. The DMs are a little weird, but feel free to DM us on Instagram or email us. Our Instagram handle is Bleeding Hearts. Both TikTok and Instagram handle are bleedingheartsclub.pod. And then email is bleedingheartsclub.pod@gmail.com. So feel free to write in, and we will get to your question the next time we answer an audience question segment. So just a note that, like, don't send in anything time sensitive because we have so much information we always have to give you, especially in regards to the stuff going on in the sky or deeper topics we want to dive into. So we are doing probably one audience segment a quarter, I would say. So yeah, feel free to write in anything, but just keep in mind, maybe don't write in anything time sensitive. So, um, yay. Okay, so we're gonna get into it, and then we're gonna do a tarot and astrology horoscope. So, for the month, the transition from Aries to Taurus season. No, yeah, yeah. Listen, that's that's the horoscope. We'll get into more details on that after. But yeah. So, Stevie, if you want to get into reading our question.
Okay, perfect. I also just wanted to say that Shroot and I obviously share the TikTok account, and my mom is like constantly sending me videos.
I was wondering who that was. Okay, good, good to know.
That's my mom.
Hi, Stevie's mom.
She does follow us. She does, yeah. She writes for the podcast. I don't think she listens to it, but she definitely sees the videos on TikTok.
That's so sweet.
Feel free to look at those videos, Shroot.
You know what? Now that I know who it is, I will. I was like, this seems like Stevie's business, so I'm just gonna stay out of it. But now, with your permission, I will be in your business.
Yes, I am always accidentally sending videos to people through our shared account. Oops.
Yeah, TikTok is extremely chaotic. But you know what? That's okay.
It's a lawless land.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to read our question. I'm going to try my best because I have contacts in and yep. Okay, so it says, I've had a very long streak of being unlucky in love, August 2020 to the present. I've run the numbers, and literally each time I hit it off with someone, online or off, for something casual or more serious, on a first date, after a makeout sesh, everything seems to be going so well. And then in parentheses, it says, I am excited about the person and the feeling seems mutual. And then the other person drops off, ghosts, or would rather be friends. And then says that they never stick around to become friends, which, boo. Um, I feel I've tried everything, including not trying. I'm feeling really curious as to what gives, and if y'all could give me some insight.
Wow.
Dating sucks. I'm really glad I don't have to do that anymore, slash right now, but it's the trenches out there. It is, and I want to affirm that things can be so confusing, and I've definitely had these kinds of experiences too where like you feel like you hit it off with someone and then it just doesn't it just doesn't work out. And I feel like there's always there's always a lot of things beyond the surface or like behind the closed doors. I don't know what saying, but like there's so much that doesn't have to do with you that is so fully them and like whatever they have going on. So I just want to like give you that. There may be so much that you can't see right now.
Yeah, we just want to give you a quick disclaimer too, that Steve and I, just astrologically speaking, both have North Node conjunct our Venuses. So we are figuring it out just like you. I just want to emphasize that this is not an area of expertise for us. But we do have the expertise on astrology, we do have the expertise on tarot, so we are going to approach your reading from that perspective, but just kind of maybe take what we say for with a grain of salt because we're stumbling in the dark on this topic, and we ourselves find out the hard way, and we get to learn our lessons the fun way. We are not a treasure trove of experience on. We are not relationship experts, that's for sure. So, yeah, just wanted to give that disclaimer before we jump in.
Thank you, Shoot, for that disclaimer. Okay. When I was pulling the cards for this, I usually just like pick one card, but three cards flew out all the same. It wasn't just like they flew out in like almost a pamphlet, which was very interesting. The first card, please don't be scared, but it was the devil. Um, so the devil, I feel like represents something more internal, personal, subconscious that has like some sort of grasp over you, some sort of entrapment. I don't know if that's a word. Um, but it feels like a subconscious pattern that keeps getting played out. Something like a story or an experience continues to like be reenacted, even if these folks are completely different from each other. Um, I'm curious to know like what all of these people have in common. Again, they may be completely different, but I'm wondering if there's something in retrospect that you can see that there's like a commonality, either of like maybe little traits about them, little experiences that you've had in your interactions with them that kind of like peak, not quite red flag, but are just like, I'm noticing this and I'm just going to put a pin in that. And I'm also curious what comes up for you when you are in the early stages of interacting with people, like building relationships with somebody new, just because, yeah, I think, of course, there's stuff going on with them that we don't know, that we can't see, but I'm also curious of like if there are patterns that you've noticed within yourself. Maybe I don't want to like, I don't know. I don't want to like say that anything is bad. So like if you're feeling like excited, I don't want you to like not feel excited about someone, but like where does your mind go? Are there hopes? Are there expectations that you're putting on yourself or another person? Do you like have these almost like fantasies maybe of like, oh, like if this works out, then these other things are going to fall into place and I'll finally get to do X, Y, and Z. Yeah, I'm curious what comes up for you. If there are any, I don't know. I don't know how to like put into words. I'm thinking about like myself and when I started dating, and I'm wondering this like topic of like noticing red flags or noticing flags in general. Like maybe these folks have some traits or attributes that maybe remind you of different people in your life. And you're noticing that and you're like, yeah, but that's this person is their own person. Like this person isn't like my ex or this other person I know. And in that way, you kind of like push past it or look past it. I don't know. But yeah, either way, this card is calling for some internal reflection. Um, about your attachments, your expectations, how you show up. And yeah, I'm going to hand this over to Shrew if you have any thoughts.
Yeah. So when you pulled out the devil, I realized that um, in the chart, the kind of correlation that I see is that this person has um, a mathematical point called lot of eros, which has to do with what we are attracted to in other people and what other people are attracted to in us. So I figured that was the best place to look to answer this question because it's about the kind of early stages of dating and the success or failure there. And so that so much of that has to do with attraction. Um, this person has a lot of Eros conjunct Lilith in their chart. And that is intense because Lilith is a mathematical point that has to do with um, where we self-abandon in order to feel like procure like safety in society. And it has to do with the ways in which we are punished for not uh, fitting into the kind of like social environments that we're in. And I really want to emphasize, like, I think Judith Butler has really amazing work on this topic, but um, even in queer spaces, even in spaces that claim to be outside of the paradigm of, alternative to the paradigm of mainstream society, and the mainstream norms, especially around gender and sexuality and stuff, like queer communities often still reproduce similar power dynamics and similar hierarchies and have similar ways of punishing nonconformity within these spaces. And so I just want to kind of emphasize that regardless of your kind of like identity, regardless of your sexuality, regardless of the communities that you operate in, this is just something that is present in a lot of spaces. And that because of this placement, the lot of Eros conjunct Lilith is located at the very top of this person's chart. Um, and so they have a experience of um, it being something that is like a prominent experience in their life where um, there is an element of intensity to attraction that can often overpower or overshadow self-presence in these spaces. And so that's why I felt like the devil was a good representation of that because the devil is a distraction, right? Like the devil is like taking your eye off the ball to go get, sidetracked on something else. And so it's about kind of like our like almost like an absence of self. But I think it's kind of hard to say because it's not that you are being absent in these relationships, not at all. It's more that the attraction itself is so intense or interesting or stimulating that it's hard to see other things around that. And also that like attraction is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to compatibility. And so when the attraction is so intense, you could possibly be confusing that for compatibility. And so maybe other people are feeling that intensity of attraction, but it's not a priority for them to act on the strength of that attraction. Maybe they have other priorities that this engagement is not in alignment with. Yeah, that's just something to kind of think about. I think we'll touch on it more as we go on, but I just wanted to start there.
I'm seeing the devil as like, what freaking movie is that? It's every Disney movie. There's something so alluring, and then it just kind of like knocks you out, really, like Snow White and the Apple, or
Ursula and the
Sleeping
voice.
Beauty, and like the I don't know, the thing with the prick, and yeah, there's something
Exactly.
like so captivating about it, and it really kind of blurs your vision and understanding of everything else around it. Oh yeah. Almost it's like trickster energy.
Hmm.
And it doesn't, I guess, like necessarily, not to say that like anybody in this situation is like being manipulative or a trickster, but like it's almost like a little warning of like, don't take everything for face value, or like don't look at these situations at the face value of like, I don't know, the allure, the lust, the attraction, because there's so much more beyond it that, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I should clarify too that yeah, I love that you said trickster because this placement of Lilith and Law of Arrows is in Gemini. And Gemini is the trickster sign. So yeah, it really speaks to that energy of misdirection, I think. The attraction is so strong it can produce a sense of misdirection that you're not noticing what else is happening.
Which makes me also want to say that like if it didn't work out, it didn't work out for a reason, and mayhaps you're better for it. But I don't know. I can't say for sure. Okay. The next one is the Four of Wands. So the emphasis of this card is around your home, your sense of home, establishing stability, and also celebrating what you've accomplished so far in creating that security and stability for yourself. I think in the context of it being after the devil, it makes me wonder. I'm trying to put words to like what's happening in my brain, but it makes me wonder what stability, what security, what secure attachment looked like for you growing up in your own home. And I don't want to like get too far into the next card already, but I think I want to highlight the work that you have done, the home or sense of home that you've already like worked to establish. I didn't know anything about you, but you're here and you're reaching out for support. And I'm gonna hope that you have done a lot of work to creating something that is meaningful for you, that is secure for you. Um, and I wonder what this devil card and these relationships and how confusing it can be, like how that may impact your sense of stability, your sense of home within yourself and security within yourself. Because I can imagine, like having all these experiences where you're feeling hopeful or things are looking good, and then you're kind of left confused and without answers. And I wonder what that does to you. I think in recognizing that and looking at that sense of like confusion or dysregulation, there's also a need to remind yourself of the ways that secure attachment shows up for you in other spaces of your life, like the relationship you have with yourself, maybe any pets you have, um, your friends, your family, whether they're chosen family or blood family. Um, so, yeah, I want to, I guess, emphasize that yeah, this is hard and dating is hard and it's confusing. And a lot of the times you're left with a lot of questions and not very many answers. But there are things in front of you in real time that are still there and that are still holding you and supporting you. And when you're feeling into that destabilization, tap into those resources too.
Yeah, I think I really want to emphasize that it is, I think this card came out. This is one of my clients. I'm like, I know this person. And I think the reason that this card came out was because in this conversation of we're talking about on to reflect on, this lack of success around finding partnership in a romantic context, like I think it's important to think about like um, what's going right for me. And I think you should really make it a priority to celebrate that and to really value and appreciate that. So I'm actually going to be hosting a workshop on manifesting um, your dream relationship, but not in a way that's like, if you do this manifestation, you'll get your dream relationship. It's more, if you do this manifestation, you'll recognize your dream relationship when you stumble upon it, that kind of thing. So I just want to emphasize that. So I'm doing a lot of research on relationship stuff to prep for this workshop. And one of the things that I kind of keep coming across is, and I'm doing this for all genders, just specifically because I want this workshop to be accessible to everybody. But I keep seeing a topic that people who have been in a long-term relationship for a very long time, they talk about one of the things that quickly improves the quality of their relationship if they feel like there's stagnancy or something is wrong, or it's a good, healthy relationship. They're committed to each other, but things aren't maybe the best they could be. One of the quickest fixes is that one of the partners realizes that they need to be celebrating with their partner more. And they need to be kind of like agreeable more and need to be kind of positive more. And so, like, how quickly that kind of can change the dynamic in like a long-term partnership. Like, I felt like that was a similar vein of what this card is talking about, of like, I think a really helpful skill to kind of develop within yourself that then you can also bring to a partnership, both whether it's in the short term of attraction and dating or in like the long term of success of a relationship, is that like cultivating the ability to be present for and to celebrate and to feel the joy of your wins and to feel the joy of your progress and growth as a person is like really, really essential because um connecting on that like energy of joy and celebration is something that will bond you to another person and increase the connection that you have between you two. And I think it's really important to kind of think about like it can be hard to hold space in relationships for things that we ourselves cannot hold space for. So, one thing I've noticed is that I have the kind of opposite problem where I actually have a really hard time. I don't have any problem holding space for celebration and joy in my relationships. I'm a very upbeat, positive person. But for a long time, I could not sit with the discomfort of somebody who was struggling and suffering, but uh, I'm not able to help them. So if I couldn't solve the problem, I tended to not be very present for their struggle and to share in their struggle. And so what I found was that that was because I couldn't do that within myself. And so when I put the effort to be like, okay, this is how I learned to be present with uh, the state of my discomfort, the state of my dysregulation, the state of whatever I'm upset about, without trying to solve it as like the jump immediately, where if I can just feel the feeling and be uncomfortable, immediately I noticed that that translated to the way that I showed up in my relationships. And it enabled me to be a better friend, and to show up in my relationships in a much more rounded way that was healthier for all of us. And I'm sure my friends appreciated it. I'm sure they were so sick of me constantly steamrolling over their problems with solutions. And, you know, I literally started a job. I do this for a living to help people find, solutions to their problems. But learning how to just be present with things sucking and not trying to change that was something I had to learn. So once I learned that within myself, it deepened and enriched the way that I showed up in relationships. And it opened up possibilities for connection with people that I did not previously have access to. And so that changed the dynamic of how I show up in present relationships, but it also changed the way that new relationships were able to form. And so I think that that might be a really helpful practical strategy of like, what does it look like to be embodied and present in the joy of your successes and the joy of your growth so that you can then translate that into being present with the joy of a partner, and the growth of a relationship. So, yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Meow, 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 meow. You ready for the last one for this specific question?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so the last card for this question is the Six of Cups. And I think there's a lot of nostalgia and reflection that comes with this card. Um, it's almost like looking to the past for a sense of happiness and lightheartedness, but also a need to reflect on formative moments in your life. I think as we're thinking about like the devil and entrapments and a sense of home and stability, this makes me curious about, I don't know, again, what your formative relationships look like, what your, relationships with your caregivers, your family, your friends, what those look like, your romantic relationships as well. Like, what are these things that shaped you and I guess kind of like built out your core beliefs of how the world works and how people operate? Um, were your caregivers showing up for you? Were they attuned to your needs? Or were there moments where you were left again feeling confused without answers and just kind of left to make up your own conclusions and make sense of what your experience was? Um, I definitely feel like there's a need to kind of reflect and connect with your inner child or even your inner teenager. Or I don't know how old you are, but like early 20s, there's also so much there. So yeah, I'm curious about mm, yeah, these more formative experiences. And I'm wondering too, like when these folks fall off, when you are getting ghosted or when things just don't work out, what parts of this, like what parts of yourself does this activate? What I think like kind of thoughts come up for you when this happens? Like I'm thinking about for myself, um, I can imagine like my maybe like fourth grade self being like, well, damn, like I don't have any friends. My friends are fake. I thought they were one thing, but now that I don't know, something happened, like I'm kind of alone in this. So maybe looking at experiences of confusion, rejection, not having answers, and just, yeah, being left wondering. Because I can imagine that there's this part of you who's, okay, I'm getting like a little image, like this part of you that's just kind of alone in the dark. And there's not much that they can make sense of. They're just kind of looking around or waiting around for someone to show up because that's kind of where they're left. And so I wonder what it would be like for you to meet them where they're at. Maybe even bring a little lantern with them and just sit with them. I think this need to like shoot, like what you were saying, like this discomfort of not having an immediate fix, that is so hard for people. It's hard for me too, like to, and even with folks who maybe have a cognitive understanding of what's going on or what the problem is, but a harder time doing something different about it. I think right now there's no need to do something about it other than just being with it and doing some exploration of different experiences, different feelings, having a conversation with these different parts of yourself and just seeing them. Because I think one of the things about ghosting or just falling off is that people do that so they don't have to see you. So they don't have to see what the impact of their actions or inactions are. You know, they don't see that confusion, they don't see that hurt or sense of rejection or whatever other feeling, or maybe even relief. I don't know, like, so when everybody else is just kind of turning their backs on you, I think the most important thing to do at this moment is to look and to sit and to be there. And maybe you'll find answers and maybe not, but I think that's for you to figure out. But yeah, yeah, that is what I have.
Ooh. It's heavy. I really want to emphasize that, like, I know this question is kind of like emotionally involved, but also could be considered a little bit lighter. And I don't think that that's true in practice. And one of the reasons why, at least for you specifically, is because you have so many placements in your fourth house opposite that Lilith. And the fourth house is the most intimate place that we have with ourselves. It is who we are with ourselves, by ourselves. It's our inner world. It's like when, like, the best way to describe it is like, you come home from work after a long day and you take your bra off, and like the feeling of like the freedom in taking your bra off and just like being able to just be in a like state of flow in your own home, like that's what the fourth house represents. And so it's like having so many placements in your fourth house, and the most important, the most relevant to this conversation one being your Venus. And so it's kind of like when you are making connections, it's literally all of your inner planets are in the fourth house. It's your Sun, Mercury, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus are all in the fourth house in Sagittarius. And so it's like when you are making new connections with people and the attraction piece is so big and so intense, you are meeting people with your whole self at a very intimate place. And unfortunately, that's just not how many people, or, just people in general, are like, everybody's different in the way that they show up in these attracting settings. I can speak for myself, like, as a Libra, like, I'm a Scorpio Venus, so I have the ability to connect with people on a really deep level. But I think that I don't necessarily equate depth of intimacy with depth of connection. So I can get really emotionally intimate with somebody and also be like, well, I'm never going to talk to you again. Like, and like that reconciles completely in my brain. Like, I don't have like, that's why I do my job. Like I can be an astrologer and go in deep with people and really form like, intimate connections with people, noodling through their chart with them and working through progress with them, but also understand that like I may never see this person again. And that's completely okay with me. I don't have any kind of like, sometimes I'm like, for the plot, I'm like, please update me because wow, I'm intrigued. But I don't have like a feeling of connection or attachment to that person as a result of the intimacy of connection. And so that's just, I'm giving me as an example to kind of contrast your experience, where the intensity of attraction may not correlate to um, inti inti intimacy of experience and the intimacy in the way that other people show up. Like, for example, in my case, like I can be super intimate with somebody and it's not that deep to me because I live like this. I'm an intimate person. I'm just a really deep, I'm doing the most at all times, all times. So for me, doing the most is not like a special or unique thing in a romantic context. Whereas a lot of the times the people that I attract, I tend to get, oh, me and Tauruses and Capricorns, like for Tauruses and Capricorns, it's like being that intimate with somebody is a special thing. It's not something, especially emotionally, it's not something that Taurus and Capricorn people do with everybody because they don't have the patience or energy for everybody. So when they are intimate and emotional with me, especially in a romantic context, they're like, oh my God, this is so special. And I'm like, maybe? Like sometimes I'm a Libra, maybe I can't decide. Like, and so I have been the person that you are describing, and I know the kind of other side of that, at least my side. I can't speak, universally, but it's just that people show up differently. Everybody shows up differently with different perspectives and different approaches and different ways of being that are just, a lot of people aren't even consciously thinking about this. And so it's like you bringing your whole self and being so kind of honest, and that honesty being something that is so important to you, that doesn't mean other people are showing up that way, but that also doesn't mean you shouldn't show up that way. It's just understanding that not everybody is meeting you there with that level of intensity. And having the law of Eros in Gemini, it speaks this idea that the attraction is something that is maybe not even necessarily as deep as you are showing up. Because Gemini energy is very surface level. It's known to be super, super surface level. It's known to be very information based. And so that's where I think when you mentioned you were like, I've run the numbers, I was like, that's such a mercurial thing to say. Um, where it's like, yeah, on the surface, when you run it up, when you tally up all the information available, it makes sense. Like the attraction makes sense. But the underlying thing there is that you are bringing your full self, and maybe that full self is not being met with that other person's full self. And so I think that might be something to look out for of like, the only way you're going to know if somebody is bringing their full self in with you and connecting with you on a full self level and that they value that connection as much as you do is through time, right? And the relationship kind of lasting through time. So I wouldn't necessarily see it as like a personal failing or something you have to change about yourself or something different you have to look for in other people. It's just more that, time is the only thing that will reveal whether a person values showing up as their full self and the depth of that connection, and also like values you showing up as your full self, and seeing that for yourself. I love Stevie's imagery of like, these people who are doing this to you don't see you. They don't want to see you. And I think that that is like a Lilith wound right there, where it's like there's a pain there of like, why don't these people want to see me? But you do have people in your life who see you for you and who care about you for you. I know this for a fact. And, there is something so beautiful about you, there are people who care about you. So I think it would be a good idea to kind of talk about this with, the people in your life that do see you. And, not just talk about, oh, like it didn't work out with this person and that sucks. Like I'm annoyed that it didn't work out again. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying when it doesn't work out with these people in this way, I don't feel seen. And it really hurts me to not feel seen. Like I think it would be really helpful for especially the kind of person in our lives that we share between you and me. I think it would be really helpful. I'm saying this, I know for a fact that you can talk to that person about this. And to be able to say, hey, like, I don't feel seen when this happens, and it really hurts me to not feel seen. I think sharing in that darkness, bringing in the people who are seeing you for who you are, who are showing up with you in that level of intimacy, it will deepen the pre-existing relationships that you do have. And I think that it will create almost like new standards for yourself about what you expect in a connection. And it will kind of bring a level of depth that goes beyond the attraction that makes you feel seen, over the attraction. And the last thing I want to say is, when it comes to being with this like discomfort, being with the kind of pain or being with the difficulty of this pattern, I think it's really important to think about what are the parts of yourself you are looking for acceptance in other people that you can't give yourself. Because if you are putting this acceptance or like seeking of this acceptance in the hands of other people, um, it's it's human, I want to name that. We're not perfect, and also I don't want to be like, oh, like, you have to accept everything. You have to do the work before you can be in love. Like, no, that's not true. But it can shape who you find attractive. It can shape who you want to get emotionally involved and invested in. If you are able to say, you know what? I can take steps in the direction of accepting XYZ, like the things that I'm looking for in other people. Am I able to accept those things within myself? Can I like give those things within myself? Can I ask for them from the people that I love and who care about me now? And then in turn, if I can fill up a little bit of that hole or that kind of like empty place within me, like how does that change the way that I show up when I'm looking for partnership in the future? Because I think that it can soften the intensity of the experience, which then may allow you to see a little bit more clearly, and uh, make decisions from a more, I don't want to say rational, because I don't think it's rational here. I think it's almost emotional. Like make decisions from a more emotional, embodied place of like, where are you at? Like in terms of your safety within yourself, in terms of like Stevie said, all parts of you, the child part of you, the teen part of you, the 20s part of you, like are they all in this, and what are they looking for in this, and can you give them what they're looking for through other sources in the meantime? So yeah, that's what I would say.
Good luck.
Yeah.
We are wishing you well. It is, it's a journey.
Yeah.
Dating is hard, but I'm hopeful.
Mhm. Yeah, and also people who are in long-term partnerships who maybe in your eyes have figured it out, who have what you're looking for, you know, romantic partnerships are only one aspect of the human experience. In astrology, maybe we would put the actual like partnership part of it in the seventh house. We would put the romance part of it in the fifth house, maybe even the romantic sexual part of it in the fifth house. If you're doing some freaky, freaky stuff, you would put that in the eighth house. So, like, maybe it spans more than one section of the chart, but at the end of the day, that's still, there's 12 signs, or there's 12 signs and 12 houses in the chart. I named max three, four, things in the chart. Like, there's so much more to life than just a romantic partnership. And so I'm not saying this to be like, if you're single, you should be okay with that and you shouldn't yearn for a romantic connection. I'm just saying that a lot of times romantic connection is not enough to solve these pains and these wounds within us. And we need kind of a multi-pronged approach. And you don't have to wait for the romantic partnership to begin that multi-pronged approach. It can fold in really nicely and neatly into your approach if you approach it from a holistic perspective and don't wait to be able to work on these things. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you for your question. Thank you for letting us hold the space for you. And for all of us who are listening, hold the space for you.
Yeah, if you can relate to our listener, let us know in the comments. And feel free to write in. We're happy to share it on our stories. I'm happy to pass on the message to our dear listener, because I think it's important that we know that we're not alone in this. Let's get into the tarot horoscope. So this horoscope is going to cover April 15th through May 12th. But if you're listening to this outside that period of time, just take what resonates and leave what doesn't. You want to get into the tarot, Stevie? What deck are you using?
Okay. Of course, I'm using the Marigold Tarot deck. Um, Also, if y'all have any suggestions on the tarot decks that you like or that you use, let us know. I love tarot. I love all of them, and I love the imagery. And our marigold needs to rest from time to time. So, okay. So I'm using again the Marigold Tarot deck. I pulled three cards as usual. And the first card I pulled is the Fool. Hooray! I love this card so much. Okay. The Fool. I feel like this is very apt because we just started spring. And I feel like spring symbolizes new beginnings, rebirth, renewal, all of that good stuff. And just like, I don't know, I feel like this is a good time to start from the beginning, start something new. Um, I sat with the Fool a lot last week. Um, and I feel like the overall message I got from it was to just say yes. Did you ever watch Yes Man with Jim Carrey?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I gotta
I
rewatch that.
remember I remember watching that and being like, yeah, I get that. Because I was and tend to be a person that really says no to a lot of things. I say no to myself. I say no to opportunities or new experiences because I don't know, maybe I'm scared of rejection or failure or just I don't want to go out the house, something like that. Um, I think this is an invitation for you to say yes. Say yes to yourself. Think about what you keep saying no to. Like saying no to quitting a job, saying no to starting a business, saying no to taking a class, like an aerobics silks class or whatever the heck those are called. If you have felt this call to start something or to try something or to do something, it could even be like asking someone out on a date, which is something you might not do. Like, say yes to yourself. I also get this. I'm thinking about the imagery of like the classic fool card, and it's this person who really just like has a knapsack and their dog. And it makes me think of like, you don't need everything you could possibly need in order to start. You already have everything you need, whether it's like a good attitude or like some money in the bank or friends that you can count on, a car. I don't know. I don't know. But you already have what you need just to get started. And everything else you'll pick up along the way. Opportunities will unfold. You'll meet the right people. You'll pick up a new skill. You'll, I don't know, buy a toothbrush and whatever else you need. Um, this is the time to be open, be flexible, be curious, and have fun. I think when we think about the fool, we may attribute it as someone who's naive, who like isn't really thinking about like the impact or reality. And I think that is a misrepresentation of the fool or a misinterpretation of who the fool is. I think it's somebody who, yeah, knows like, yeah, things may fall apart, things may not go my way, but I'm willing to find out. I'm willing to try. I'm willing to like step out of my comfort zone just to see because I may have this expectation of what I want at the end of the journey, but there are so many things from this point up until then that I don't know. Um, and I'm open to surprises. I'm open to learn. I'm open to building out my understanding and things like that. Um, the path is created by walking or journeying, whatever you want to call it. Like you just kind of have to take one step at a time. And yeah, I always hear like whenever I pull the fool, I always hear like dare to dream, just like those little fourth grade, really girly kind of room decals or imagery. That's what it's giving. Um, yeah, be a fool. Fools have a lot of fun. And aren't we all just a little fool at the end of the day? But yeah, I'm gonna leave that there. I'll hand this off to Shrew, and yeah.
Ooh, yeah. So if you've been listening to the podcast pretty much since November, I mean, all of our horoscopes have been geared toward this idea that like there are big shifts happening. What we consider normal isn't normal anymore. Up is down, down is up. Like, everything is topsy-turvy. And, what can you do to kind of stay grounded in the face of that and also make the most of it and be, present through all of it. And so this is part of that journey. This is the Aries season piece of it where I think the biggest kind of transit invoking this energy is the fact that Neptune has briefly moved into Aries and it will be in Aries for a few months and then it will retrograde back into Pisces one last time and then next spring it will go to Aries for good. This is one of the huge transits that's shaping the shift in the global collective, and Dare to Dream is very much like a good synopsis of Neptune and Aries and what that means. Neptune rules our dreams, our ambitions, our ideals. Ambitions maybe not the right word. I think ideals is the right word. Like the kind of like what we envision for ourselves. And it can be our delusions, it can be paranoia, but it's really like what we really want. I think our desires, like, the really the kind of feelings that our desires cultivate within us, especially in the way that they can often be transcendent. So, like, our yearning can often be a really transcendent thing. So, like, that kind of transcendence, the way that our desires can feel transcendent in our body is very much a Neptunian thing. And so Neptune being in Aries is very much about, well, dare to reach for it. Um, Neptune and Pisces has expanded what we thought is possible to dream for ourselves. Like, I don't think it was an accident that we had this era in the 2010s where, we really reached like a peak of like what we thought was possible in the society, within the confines of the society that we had found ourselves in, the limitations of the society we found ourselves in. Like, we kind of peaked out on what was possible there. And now that society is being ripped to shreds. And so it's like, okay, like within the uncertainty, within the volatility, like dare to dream anyway. And so we really encourage you, like, so many changes are coming down the pipeline. They've already started, I mean, big time, but in the next like year and a half, I mean, there's going to be so many more changes. And you change what opportunities come your way by making big decisions now. So it's like, yes, it may not seem like a rational thing to do, but we are not living in a rational time. Like, this is not a rational era. Nothing is making sense right now. Like I said, up is down, down is up. Like, so it's not inherently in your best interest right now to move with a rational lens. Although everybody has to do a cost benefit analysis, because I understand that the economic precarity right now is nuts. But I think a piece there that could be really important is that if you are not already in spaces where you are creating, you know, community collective support, especially material support, monetary support, um, it's a really good time to establish that now. I think, what is it daring to dream in terms of community support and safety nets that you can create within your communities, that you don't have to rely on um, your own economic safety and security. What does it look like to develop a community support system around that? And to have conversations with your community about, in the face of this volatility, what are we doing together to bolster ourselves against it together? Because we are always going to be stronger together than we are going to be by ourselves. I think we're very much going to see that the next 15 years. The cost of trying to do it alone. I think that's something that will come up, especially as Saturn moves into Aries very soon. So yeah, I just really want to name, like, the time to start is now. And that you're only going to know what your options are when you leap. And that I love that Stevie said the path unfolds by walking. So, there's just going to be so much unexpected. I mean, you know, we're going to see a lot more forward movement now that Mercury is direct. Venus is going to be direct. Actually, as of today, Venus is direct. Um, so like, uh, you're going to feel a lot more forward movement, especially when Mars moves into Leo on April 18th. There's just going to be a big push to take action, to move forward, to start that new beginning. And it's really important to trust that whether you stay where you are or take big moves, the ground is shaking beneath you. Like, things are shaking, and unfolding differently beneath you. You are not going to be able to keep yourself protected from this volatility. We're all in this. There's no escaping it. And so the important thing is to put yourself out there, dare to dream, and build that community support that you need to kind of empower you to make those dreams happen. And so that involves getting out of your comfort zone when it comes to relying on yourself, and to really learn how to rely on other people. So that's what I would say about that.
I also want to say take yourself seriously. I think because it's a fool, again, we kind of just like, I don't know, scoff at their dreams, their hopes, their desires. We chalk it up just to them being naive or maybe even ignorant. But the fool has a dream. The fool has the energy to it's just like raw energy. It's inspiration, it's lightheartedness, it's playfulness, and it's also like trusting that things are going to work out the way that they're meant to, and that they'll be okay at the end of it. Like, even if they fail by whoever's standards, like, they'll be fine. They'll be wiser. But if you have a dream or a desire or even just a thought, take it seriously. Take yourself seriously. Because I don't know, it's not a laughing matter. Imagine telling somebody like, I have this dream to start a business, or I have this dream to like create a community garden, or I have this dream to travel. And somebody just says, that's nice, honey. And like, and that's it. That's so devastating and discouraging. And when you do that to yourself, that just continues to like reinforce these walls that keep you from living the life that you actually want, living a life that feels exciting and fulfilling and makes you smarter and wiser. And I don't know. So yeah, it's a fool, but take it seriously. Answer the call. Woohoo.
I love that.
Yeah. You ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, the next one is the Wheel of Fortune reversed. Ha 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 ha. It sees that you are still unwilling to do that. You are still unwilling to take the chance. I know we talk about it all the time. We are saying all of these things with the understanding that there are really big things happening around us that we don't have much control over. But this is not that. The Wheel of Fortune reverse, it can signify a long string of bad luck, just bad vibes, bad times all around. But the responsibility is yours. I guess, going back to this like reinforced entrapment, like, I don't want to say it's your doing, but a lot of it is your doing. If you are feeling unhappy with the situation, I feel like you have a few options. You can accept it for what it is. You can change your emotional response to it. You can do something different about it and enact change in your own life in your own ways, or you can stay miserable. And I think the last one may feel the most realistic to a lot of people because it's almost the glue that's keeping our lives as we know it together. What if I were to quit my job? Then I would have significantly less money. I don't know if I'd be able to pay rent. I don't know if I would be able to do X, Y, and Z. That's real. And yet, the cost of that is being miserable at a job that exploits you or that you don't feel safe in. What if I break up with my long term partner? That blows up a lot of things. Like, if your families are so connected with each other, that changes so many relationship dynamics. It can mess with your housing. You may have to figure out like how to divide your assets. And that's even harder if you have kids or pets or like shared bills altogether. And I think these are real. These are real things that I don't want to minimize or discount. And at the same time, these are short term things in the grand scheme of things. You know, like, yeah, it's going to blow shit up immediately and in the foreseeable future. But what about 5 years down the line? Like, are you still going to be at this job or are you still going to be unemployed? And who knows, maybe, I don't know. But I think we get so caught up in the immediate impact of what it means to do something different or to choose ourselves or to choose happiness. And just the sheer weight of the discomfort, the uneasiness, all of that. That's what we kind of relinquish our power to. We we give that our power. I can't do that because it's going to be hard. Yeah, okay. It's not always going to be hard. It's not always going to be easy either. Um, so I think this is a little message to take back your power and really ground into your capacity to get through hard. And I think this is also coming back to a lot of things of like tapping into your community, building community, tapping into your resources too. Um, because again, Like, I don't know. I just want y'all to stop resisting, I guess. Stop resisting this change because you think you can't do it or because it's too hard. There are a lot of hard things in the world that you have experienced and you've got over. But I think when we normalize these bad feelings, when we normalize these bad conditions, that's what we end up willing to accept for the rest of our lives. I hope not. Um, the wheel is going to keep turning, whether or not you want it to. And whether or not you're resisting it is not going to stop it. It's just a matter of what you do to move with it, change with it, but you can't stop it. Um, take back your power, take back your agency. Yes, other things are going to be affected. And I also think that's the point. Not everything can go with you. And I think, I don't know. I'm just going to leave that. Shroot, I'm going to give it to you. Take it away.
Yeah, yeah, we really don't want to minimize how difficult this is or how uncertain and terrifying it is, and potentially even dangerous it is. But all of that is true regardless of your choices. That is the structural conditions that we're working under. And so what we are emphasizing here, and in the work that Stevie and I do both as practitioners, our work is so focused on, what is the personal power that you have within the confines of the structures that you're within. So we are never ignoring the structural reality when we are making suggestions on how you can wield your personal power. So like, just really, really want to drive that point home, that we're not saying this stuff lightly at all. Um, I think so much of this is about, I had mentioned in the Pisces season episodes where um, Pisces season was very Aries heavy. And I think this Aries season is very Pisces heavy. And that kind of mishmash really speaks to how messy endings and beginnings are. Pisces is the end of the zodiac, Aries is the beginning. Aries season is the new beginning, the springtime, the reset of the zodiac. And I had mentioned in the last episode about how, um, we have Neptune who moved into Aries during this Aries season. There's just a lot of heavy, heavy outer planet transits that are inspiring new beginnings in addition to the new beginning that is Aries season. And so it's like this is a very Piscean heavy Aries season, even though it is a hard new beginning. There is still so much kind of like messiness involved. We are bringing so much of resistance and our old selves and the things we're unwilling to give up into this new beginning. And so I think this Aries season being so Piscean heavy, I think holds space for that. And so um, it's very like, I think what could be helpful if you find yourself in that situation where you're like, I want to let go, but I don't see a path to do that. It feels too unsafe. Is to really root into your relationship to the universe, the spiritual, the subconscious, and to really focus your energy there. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is a good period of time. I would say it's a better period of time if you feel open to trying to negotiate details and figure things out. It is a good time to do that. But if you want to wait a little bit longer to figure that out, I think that's okay as well. I think it's okay to kind of take your time on this on ramp through Aries season into Taurus season and experience the unexpected jolts that we have coming up at the end of April into the beginning of May. There's some Uranus transits, there's some Neptune transits, Jupiter transits, just a lot of outer planet heavy hitters that are going to structurally change the world and that we're going to be reeling from. And so, like, I think it's okay to not like want to make big decisions during all of this volatility and uncertainty. However, that doesn't mean stay in a state of freeze. That doesn't mean do nothing. What I would encourage you to do is to root into your relationship to the universe, to your subconscious, to nature, to your belief system, whatever religious, I wouldn't necessarily say religious as in like organized, practiced, high control religion, more so the spirituality that you feel connected to the universe. I would say make that a priority in your life to how can you reinvigorate your connection to the universe to navigate this tumultuous period of time? Because ultimately, like the thing about Neptune is that it is about faith. It's about belief, like just like Jupiter. They're both about faith and belief. And it's like, belief in something bigger. You'll see that kind of true in religions. You'll see that true in AA uses that as a foundational practice, like, theory of practice, like that radical acceptance that comes from giving it to a higher power, like all that kind of stuff. Like there's all these different, you know, places that you can understand spirituality, like lenses you can understand spirituality through, that all agree that there is kind of like a higher power or like a higher connectedness. And so I do think it's really valuable to tap into that. So whether that's through a spiritual practice, whether that's through tarot, whether that's through journaling, meditation, any type of flow state, whether that's through connecting with nature. I always encourage people, especially if you don't really respond well to any of these things, you may have religious trauma, you don't resonate with this kind of higher power thing. Maybe you're an atheist. That's totally fine. I'm not, here to tell you what to believe or what to do with your faith. But maybe, connecting to nature is always a good option. Feeling the grounding energy of the earth. I like to walk around and, form a relationship to the trees in my neighborhood and to pull up all the intense emotions or the things that I'm feeling resistance around. I like to pull up the feeling of them in my body. And then as I'm walking by these trees, I like to be like, I'm imagining them coming up out of my heart center, out of my head and into the trees. And I think one of the most beautiful things about trees is they are some of our most reliable witnesses. The trees, they've been here and they will continue to be here after us, and they're just here. They're present. And I think we can learn so much from them. I think it ties into our audience question from earlier, but there's so much that trees can teach us about what it means to just be. And so I think try to tap into that, try to tap into what can you find in common with fire energy? What can you find in common with water energy? What can you find in common with the wind outside or the trees, the earth? So see where you feel connected and called to in relation to the world around you, the universe around you on like an elemental or like a nature level, or connect spiritually, connect with your ancestors. Like really just try to root into something spiritual and connect your subconscious to that spiritual thing and uh cultivate a sense of faith that like, hey, like every single hard, uncertain, tumultuous period of time in history, my ancestors survived that, and I'm living proof of that. And you are living proof that you are going to survive this incoming period of volatility. So, you don't have to have the answers right now. You just have to have the faith and the belief that yes, you will get through it. So I would encourage you to reinforce that belief within yourself. Even if you don't actually believe it, I would make it a practice to try. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Dang. I too needed to hear that. Thank you, my pal. Are you ready for the last one?
Yeah, please.
Okay, woohoo. The last one is the Nine of Pentacles, but for the Marigold deck, it is the Nine of Rings. This card, what a breath of fresh air.
I love this card.
Is very much a card of celebration, but also just investment in yourself. I am going to just emphasize the need to choose yourself, to invest in yourself, to take care of yourself. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but stop being a martyr for the people around you. Um, you don't have to keep doing this. You really don't. Like, you have the capacity to change your life and let everything else unfold around you. I think I see. Okay, here's another like Disney image. But do you remember? I'm gonna get this wrong, but in Finding Nemo, when they get to the, oh my gosh, hold on, let me look it up. Finding Nemo. It's like a something in the ocean. It's like a specific like flow.
Like the jet stream thing.
Yes.
Crush and the turtles. Yeah. It was like
Crush.
the Great Australian jet stream or something.
I'm gonna look up.
I love this. I know exactly what you're talking about. That
Oh
was
my God. Okay.
such a
It's the
vibe.
East
Uh,
Australian current.
yeah.
Wow. Thanks, everyone. Because I knew it was not the Great Barrier Reef, but like,
You're like, it's some P. Sherman 42 Wallaby
yeah,
Way, Sydney.
it's it's in the ocean. But I think about like, okay. I think about being in tune with your own energy and the universe and the world around you, whatever, as like just popping in to the East Australian current and literally taking that wherever you need to go. Like it just, it already has a direction. It's moving in the way that it needs to, and it's going to take you where you need to go. And you don't have to do any of the work almost. Like you got to get yourself in there. You got to, and you got to get yourself out of there. But like, I feel like when we say connect with that, ground into that, tap into that, and like be open and flexible, it is very much that imagery of like, I'm going to pop in, I'm going to let this like much larger energetic force take me on this journey and I'll know when to get out. But like, I think so much of the work that we do already, like, we're doing way too much work, period. Labor wise, we're doing way too much work. But I think in the work that we do on ourselves and just like trying to like control everything, we put way too much energy into that, into like needing to control or needing to like keep everything in its place. And that just exhausts all our resources. So, Nine of Pentacles is telling you to release that control, to just go with the flow. And that may be really hard for a lot of people. Me too. There are many things in my life that I'm like, I have to be in control of this. And if I'm not, everyone will perish. But I recognize like I need to let go. I need to say yes. I think if you don't know how to like tune in to the energy of the universe or whatever the hell we're saying, like start by saying yes. Start by doing the opposite of what you are doing. If you say no, like if someone says like, "Oh, do you want to hang out?" Say yes, even if you don't want to. It's okay. I understand. It's nice being home. Your animals are at home. Your snacks are at home. Your favorite spoon is at home. But you never know what's going to happen if you say yes. You don't know what's going to happen after that. And so say yes. Watch Yes Man with Jim Carrey. I don't know if it holds up. I really don't. I really don't. And I have to watch that again. But say yes to yourself. Say yes to the things that you're curious about. Say yes to opportunities and experiences that you've been blocking yourself off of and see where that takes you. Um, yeah, you don't have to work that hard when you're moving with the frequency of the universe. You work much harder when you are trying to go against it or trying to control it. You're not that important. You're not that big. Just go with the flow. Enter the East Australian current. Go on a trip. I don't know. I just came back from New Mexico. It was my first solo trip ever where I didn't know anyone and I stayed by myself. And that was really scary because I was also going to like represent one of my jobs. And I'm not used to doing that. Um, but it was a lot of fun. And I got to say yes. And it unfolded in really beautiful ways that, you know, make me really happy that I went and that I was open. So, all of this to say, this energy from April 15th to May 12th, which is my best friend's birthday. Hey, Stephanie. Hey. Um, I forgot her birthday 1 year and she never let me forget it. So I'm saying this. I know that this is your birthday. um, be open, be open, be fluid, be flexible, be curious, and see what happens.
I love it. Yeah, I want to give my experience of saying yes before I get into the astrology because yeah, that really resonates. Like um we're fostering a puppy in my house for my roommate's family and I have never taken care of a puppy in my life. I've heard people talk about it and I've been around dogs. I've lived with dogs, but I've never taken care of a puppy. And I was a prominent caregiver in my upbringing. In my household. I was definitely parentified, but it went much further than that, without getting into the details. But it was very much like a parent force in my life, in my family's life. And um, I remember saying to myself that I never wanted children. I never wanted um, to have to put my life aside for caring for another being again because I wanted my life to be mine. And it has been a wonderful, decade of my life being mine. And then all of a sudden, it's like this puppy just kind of crash landed into our house, and I'm now caring for another being, and I'm having to factor in, oh, like, yeah, I need to eat, but I know I need to take this puppy out first. I got to play with this puppy first. Like, it's something that is so new yet so familiar to me. And um I would have experienced so much resistance around this because it goes against that kind of teen version of me that was like, no, my life is mine. I'm not caring for anything ever again? Um, but I said yes. And I've had continued to say yes, and I've had to renegotiate what that yes looks like as I realize I've overcommitted and I can't actually do that much, to support the puppies. Like, so I think it has taught me a lot of what maybe a more updated and realistic relationship I have to that whole like boundary of I don't want to care for another living being like that again. And I think it brought up a lot of inner child healing that I still needed to do around my needs not getting met as a child. And it was a really powerful opportunity for healing. And none of that would have come up if I hadn't said yes. And it has been strange and it has been a real delight. And I know I'm gonna miss it as much as I'm exhausted. I'm gonna miss this puppy when he's gone. And so I'm really glad that I said yes, even though it's been like total left field. It was like exactly what Stevie said of like just entering that current and flowing with it as opposed to trying to fight it, and really reinforcing like, okay, this resistance is coming up for me. Where is it coming from? Yes, it's coming from the fact that in my childhood, I didn't really get to have much of a childhood. Very quickly, I was very responsible for somebody else. And so I wanted to reclaim responsibility for just myself. And it's like, okay, I've done so much healing around that. Do I really still need to hold on to that so tightly anymore? No, like I'm okay. And then also, oh, I've committed too much. Wait, I actually do have to take care of myself. Hold on, let's renegotiate that. Okay, like let me just enjoy this, let me, release this wound that I have from my childhood and just be here right now and enjoy this. And I wouldn't have gone through that journey had I closed myself off from this opportunity. And I would have missed out. I would have been really sad to be like, telling my roommates, hey, like, yeah, you can have this puppy, but I'm not involved. So I'm really glad that I said yes, even though it has been exhausting. I did not think I had the capacity for this. And in many ways, I don't have the capacity for this. Um, so yeah, like I learned a lot about myself by saying yes. And I rode through the uncertainty with a deeper understanding of myself and what I actually really need right now. So I just want to offer that because yeah, there's just so much changing, and you're not really going to know what you need unless you're in it. And you're paying attention to yourself while you're in it. So to kind of make that possible, what I would really encourage you is as we transition into Taurus season, while we're gonna have so many Aries heavy placements during Taurus season. And I think that really speaks to this idea is you got to focus on yourself. Like you got to take care of yourself. I think taking care of yourself needs to be top priority. So it's like what does it look like to say yes, to push yourself in those ways, to go with the current, push yourself to go with the current, right? Push yourself to stop resisting and to evaluate what do you need to stay relaxed? What do you need to stay resourced and with capacity? And to really prioritize that. So for me, it was, oh, I jumped in with 2 feet and then I was like, wait a minute, I actually can't do this. So I had to renegotiate that with my roommates. Like, you're not going to know unless you say yes. And then also when you're saying yes, you can't just say yes and self abandon. You can't just say yes and be like, oh, I need to renegotiate this, but I actually can't because I've already said yes. It's kind of like, when we talk about consent, right? Consent is an ongoing practice. And so when you're saying yes, you're allowed to modulate, update, reinterpret, reinform that yes. And create new meaning with that yes as you change in response to the things that are changing you. So if you center saying yes, and then what are the supports, resources, rest, what do you need in order to keep being able to show up and saying yes? Or even how do you need to change the nature and dynamic of the yes in order to keep showing up, to stop resisting this current? I would encourage you to really make that a priority this month, because you're going to learn so much about yourself and you're going to learn so much about what you really need, in this period of volatility, what is really going to be the thing that supports you. It's really important to get that information, and you're not going to get that information if you try to resist the changes that are happening. So let go, embrace the uncertain, and take care of yourself as best as you can through it. That's what I'd say. So, yeah. Any final thoughts, Stevie?
Nope. Woohoo.
Woohoo! That's your horoscope. So we know everything is so intense. We know so much is going on. We're fighting for our life just to record these episodes. We
Mhm.
are exhausted ourselves, and overwhelmed, and everything is so a lot. So please do your best to take care of yourself, communicate your needs to your community, take care of your community, really deepen those ties emotionally, be more emotionally vulnerable with your people so that they can be more emotionally vulnerable with you, and you guys can all learn to coexist in this discomfort together. And yeah, I guess we'll see you next time.
Bye, y'all. See
Yeah,
you next Tuesday.
yeah. And don't forget to follow us. All of our links are in the notes. And feel free to message us, comment on any of our posts, and join the conversation. We'd love to hear from you. So, bye.
Bye, y'all. Love you.
Love you.